I'm back, baby, and we're here to talk about heavy hitters brute cards, both in the limited context and in the CC context. I played 6 or 7 pods of limited so far, played every single hero imaginable, literally every single one. I played with most of the cards, including quite a few of the Majestics in those pods. I've been slamming my face against KO and Rhinar and CC right now, and I think I'm onto some good stuff, some good stuff right now. Brutes are looking amazing. And I just came back from the very office that these cards were created, where they squished together the cardboard and they printed that ridiculous hero named KO. So let's dive into the cards. At the end of this video, I hope you understand the limited format and the CC format a little bit better, and you can get a general idea of where my head's at as far as how powerful these cards are. Let's dive into it. All right. So on the screen here, we have, our heroes, right? KO is looking really good, right? Honestly, the more I play him, the more terrified I am to go to armories. But quite good. His hero ability is nuts. We already kind of know about it, and we know Rhinar's in this set, right? So let's talk about what I think about the brute cards so far, because I've actually played with most of them at this point. Actually, all of them. I've played with all of them, right? So you got your token, claws. We know how good claws are. They're not going anywhere in CC. Honestly, still probably the best weapon for brutes across the board. Hence why they're trying to stick it on KO so they get LL'd out and they can actually have some creativity with brutes again, instead of every single hero using claws. I'm sorry if you thought you're going to get away from it. Doesn't seem like that right now. Maybe somebody will make a busted ball breaker / romping club build, Hexagore maybe even. But honestly, right now, claws looking like they're going to stay for forever until KO LLs, which is possible because KO's nuts. But in limited, right? In limited, you want ball breaker. This card's cracked, especially on Rhinar. If you get Ball Breaker, Rhinar opens up as a very degenerate hero because you don't get to do those like, you don't have Bloodbrush Bellows, right? So 90% of the time, you're going to want to do something like a discard into a claw into a Ball Breaker. We saw Brody Spurlock abuse this card in heavy hitter only CC. We know that if you get this card in draft, which I did, it is cracked. So this is up there on like power brute cards. So in limited format, you want it, right? Mini Medax, honestly, okay at best. It is kind of cool on Rhinar. It does push more damage than you think it would, but you also run the risk if you're choosing to be Rhinar that you're not going to hit off the top randomly. So it's kind of like a trap card. And in KO, like all it does is make a Might token, and you probably already did that anyways because you opened with a Wild Red or Bear Fangs if you're closing on a Medax, right? Like this is a 2 for 4 if you do it, but like you're just milling yourself. Apex Bone Breaker. Honestly, cracked, right? So this is worth 3 health, and it's worth 5 if you count the Might tokens. So again, brutes back to back get 2 of the most powerful legendaries in the game value wise, right? Honestly, like Flesh Bag is worth like 7 a lot of the time. Apex Bone Breaker is worth 5 at the floor most of the time. I mean, sometimes I guess you don't block with a 6. 5 at the floor, but if you stop a snatch with this thing, it's worth like $1 million. Right? If you stop Mask of Momentum with this thing, it's worth $1 million. So it also lets you do things like send CNC and erase face at breakpoints, which is very frustrating for your opponents to deal with. You can't play this in limited, obviously, but in CC, this is going to be a mainstay. However, I don't think Gambler's Gloves are going anywhere. Certain matchups, I would rather roll every turn than block, 5, right? Knucklehead. This card is probably the reason you won your KO pod. Not going to lie. This card is too... I honestly think the helmets in this set for limited are a little bit too much, right? Like, you get Betsy's helmet, you're playing a different hero than somebody who doesn't have it. You get Knucklehead, you're playing like a degenerate aggro deck that just has 3 more health than everybody else. So if you draw this and you have the reds to support it, like, you got to play KO. This is 3 health on a stick. Don't ever use its ability unless you're ridiculously crazy. I did use it once because it didn't matter and I was so far ahead. I got a 2, so I wouldn't recommend doing it. Yeah. Monstrous Veil. Way less armor. I don't get it. Like what's up with this? Look at how strong this is. Look at how much health you get. And then you get 1 here. Cool. Whatever. Honestly, Rhinar could have used the 3 health more than KO did, but that's okay. However, the card's super strong, right? Like, this is how you close the game. 20 health formats, when you're both sending 7 to 11 or 15 at each other every turn, you're going to leak damage. You just can't block enough in this set. Like even the Guardians struggle against a good KO deck. Like you're just gonna overwhelm them with damage every turn. So what this does is it lets you immediately destroy the game at like 8, right? So you trade in from Arsenal, you Monstrous Veil, and then you send to 7, or even worse, you have another discard card in there somewhere, and suddenly your opponent just dies, right? So this is actually nuts. Very powerful to end the game. Also to start the game off, like turn 0, you might be able to just rip away 5 to 6 life from them, and that's a lot in limited. Okay, and then let's talk about raw meat. These cards are deceptively powerful because blocking is so important in this set. And you do make agility and might tokens pretty often, especially as KO, way more often as KO. But you can activate raw meat by just discarding an agile windup. So you discard it on your turn, you make the might and the agility token, you can block for 2 on your next on the defense stage and send back this monstrous pivot turn, right? Armor is incredibly important in limited. Not only that, it is better to not equip armor you can't use than to just have it there, right? Because there is a card, the generic, which we can look at it in a second, that will destroy you if you have more health, more armor, and less token or more tokens than your opponent. So if you can't get off your armor, don't put it on. Don't put it on, because you'll get destroyed for it. So honestly, Knucklehead is kind of above almost every other piece of equipment in the game, minus like Betsy's helmet, because it's just so much health, right? So much health on one of the faster heroes. Against warriors and against those like mirror matches, if you have Knucklehead versus a KO who doesn't, you're unless your KO deck is like way better, you might lose. Okay. Now let's get into the juice. Okay. The juice right here. Send Packing. This card, absolutely S tier for Rhinar. Honestly, I think it's really strong for KO too. It does everything you've ever wanted to do, right? Like you get card knowledge out of their arsenal. So now you know if a warrior had like an attack reactor, had a big card, whatever, a pummel in their arsenal as a Bravo, you just flick that thing out, and now they have to give you 2 cards to stop it. It also turns off D-Reacts because it gets banished face up. So they can't play that D-React anymore. So Rhinar can now just do like barraging, send packing, and you're going to get those 2 cards from your opponent's hand. Or, they take 12, right? So this card's really, really good, especially for those combo plays, especially for turning off D-Reacts, for gaining knowledge of your opponent, for forcing blocks, which is something Brute's never had before. This card, in my opinion, right now, playing with it, S tier card. This is one of Brute's best cards, weirdly. For a 3-cost 7, it blocks 3. It does everything you've ever wanted. It's annoying to deal with. It turns off D-Reacts and Arsenal. It's amazing. Show No Mercy. Yeah, this card's really good. But it's kind of complicated building Rhinar right now, in my personal opinion. I'm trying to figure out the right way to go. I started with Might Nar, then I kind of went to Agi Nar, then I started playing with like all-in Tim Rhinar. There's a lot of build paths for Rhinar right now. This card is really good. However, we're stacking up a lot of 3 costs in Rhinar now, which is probably intentional. We're getting like, you play this in Alpha Rampage, basically the same card if you think about it. They both require you to block. They both do intims, and they both do extra damage for free. They both basically say, I'm going to do 3 damage no matter what, if you play a 3-card hand. But really, really good. Really makes Rhinar even more cemented as the anti-defense hero. Like, you play into those control victors as Rhinar, and you just like kind of coast. You don't even have to think. You're like, here's 4 intimidates again. Good luck with those 5 block cards you have in your hand. Like, right? So, interesting card. A lot of deck building freedom for Rhinar right now. It feels, I know we're all going to shake out to being on the same list eventually, probably, but right now it's pretty hard to nail what's better. Cast Bones. This card's, at first I was like, ooh, red non-6, like a non-attack action, like that's going to be trash. And then, like, what am I going to get? Like 3 to 4 might tokens, and like, so one, without go again. Yeah, no. You roll scabs, you hit this, you get 6 might tokens and agility off the top almost every time if you build KO a certain way. You just vomited 6 damage and an agility token onto the table, and then you still sent a Bear Fangs for 9, and then you pocket a card, and then your next turn you send CNC for 11 go again, or 13 go again sometimes. Like, this card's cracked. You don't want too many in your KO deck though, because like it does clog you up. Drawing two of these in the same hand, it's kind of like drawing Reckless and Reckless together. It's like not a good experience for anybody because now you have to hit a 6 to even be able to do anything with your hand. I mean, the benefit is it blocks 3, but it does clog you up quite a bit. So like I'm on 2 right now, and honestly, it feels amazing. Like when this card goes, you go to the moon. You go to the freaking moon, and you come back, and then you go to the moon again because you just did a 25 damage, 30 damage turn. It's absolutely stupid. This mixed with like some other degenerate cards like Tear Limb from Limb. I sent I'll put the screenshots in there, but like I sent a Savage Beatdown for like 26 or something stupid. And then I immediately after sent another card for like 15. And then I immediately after sent Command and Conquer for 13 go again. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Card's really good. Reckless Charge is absolute F tier garbage. I got in like arguments over this card on the internet because everybody on the internet's correct. So what does this do? This is like a 20-cent Majestic that lets you not have scab skins. Honestly, I think that's what it's for. Like if you get it in draft, cool, I guess. You know, like it's a blue block 3 that can give you more action points if the need ever comes up, but you vomit agility tokens anyways. So it's a blue block 3 as like its literal ceiling. Because why, even if you roll a 6 and you draw a card, like you could just activate scab skins for free. For free. You just spent your blue to do what scab skins does, and maybe you get a card back. Yeah, this card is never going to be played ever. And if I'm wrong, I don't care. Tell me. Anyways, like tell me when you figure out what this card's supposed to do for you. Tell me. But you're wrong. No Fear. Card is at first thought was absolutely degenerately cracked. It does everything I thought I'd ever want it to do. And then I realized that like you don't have that many 6s as Rhinar. So, you know, depending on like your degenerate level of Rhinar, like if you're going full aggro, B to the W, you know, this card's pretty good. But however, like just because of how Brute Life is, you're going to draw this card next to Blood Rush every freaking time. Every freaking time. However, if you're smart with this card, right, like you put it in your arsenal or whatever, and things line up pretty well, you can do some ridiculous stuff like just straight up dodge a Command and Conquer Pummel, and you can straight up dodge Crippling Crush. Like they can Crippling Crush you, and you can just lay your whole hand down and say, I won't discard anything, get out of here, and I'll block 6, whatever, right? So this card's actually really good, but it's not as free as you'd think it is. Again, it's a red. It doesn't do anything except for block damage and pitch for 1. So like you don't want to be just hemorrhaging these every turn, right? And it's also pretty below rate on blocking. Like if blocking is your defense style, this isn't the card for you. If you want to block some damage and still swing 12, then this card's for you, you know? But still, like you might draw this next to a Blood Rush. You might draw this next to a non-attack action. You might do something. And then now it's like a really below rate block 2 card that doesn't pitch. All right, Beast Mode. You know, I've always thought Beast Mode would be sick in CC if we could figure out a way to make it work, which I think you can now because of the Intimidates on Beat Chest. There's a whole avenue of Rhinar with Beat Chest that like I'm still going to explore, but it's just really hard because all of the Beat Chest cards cost 3, and really they only become favorable if you chain them together. So like there's no way you can... There's just like not really easy ways to get Beat Chest to work in like a way that's still not card negative, right? However, in draft, this card right here is gas for Rhinar. It's a 2-card 8. In draft and in CC, this card's really good, actually. I played it to great effect. It blocks 3. All 3 colors are pretty decent in KO too because it fulfills like the yellow 6 quantities that you need. But honestly, this card's really good for Rhinar in draft and limited. Play it. Pack Call also really good in draft and limited. Like 2 cost 7 is like the name of draft or limited. Sorry. Sending 7 is kind of like the mainstay, and then setting up combo turns is like what you have to do the rest of the time. Brutes have, you know, 2 cost 8, 2 card 8, 2 card 7s that block 3, which is rare. Okay, a lot of the other generic or split cards, they block 2. So Brutes can block better and still send 7. Very good. Rawhide Rumble, double Intimidate. Sometimes a triple Intimidate with this card is kind of wild if you think about it. You can also really easily set up a quad intim with this card, and so it's quad intim 10. Really, actually, very good. Like it gives Reinhardt even more ways to just say on turn 0 or to end the game, I'm doing 10 and you can't interact with me anymore, right? So Rawhide Rumble just stacks up Show No Mercy, Alpha Rampage, Barraging Beatdown, Rawhide Rumble. It's a 2 cost with a May trigger on it that just says like, I'm going to be able to do 10 damage to you at any point in the game. There is never a point in this game from now on when you play against a Reinhardt where you're safe at 10, unless their health is super low, right? But if you and a Reinhardt are both at 10 life or like 15 life or whatever, there is a chance that Reinhardt's just going to one-shot you off the planet, right? Because he's going to eat your whole turn and then kill you. So actually, really like this card a lot more than I thought I would, especially because of the May trigger. Like this can just sit in your arsenal for Blood Rush Bellows, and then if you have an extra card, you just, you know. But beat chest, like I was saying, so Assault and Battery here. You know, this May trigger is super nice, but look at this cost right here. This is the problem I'm having with beat chest cards right here. They all cost 3, really. So like if I really wanted to do this right way, in limited, these are pretty good because like your turns aren't optimized 90% of the time. So you might have an agility token. You can do something like Assault and Battery from Arsenal, beat chest, and then send the other one, Pound Town or whatever. And then it's beat chest triggers. You just did 14 or 13 or whatever, and you made a might and an agility token. And you intimidated as Reinhardt, or you made another might token as KO. Like that in draft, in limited, is actually really, really good. It's a really high ceiling. You're generating a lot of future value. You're doing all that stuff. But in CC, the only way beat chest is favorable is if you played 2 beat chest cards next to each other. And you'll see here that these cost 3. And you have to discard something. So that's a 5-card 14 if you hit the reds, right? That's assuming everything lined up. You have 2 blues in your hand. You hit the reds. That's a tall order, right? It's not that easy to do. And honestly, 5-card 12, 5-card 14 is like not great. So, you know, I really want to make the beat chest build work because like it's just cool to be able to intim on demand whenever you want. But if these were 2 costs, everything would be... Even if some of these were 2 costs, everything would make way more sense because then you could at least like do it on a tunic turn or something. Right now you can't. You have to commit 2 blues or a blue and a yellow and a tunic, right? Like that's so much to ask. You just took like a whole hand's worth of damage from an aggro opponent to do 12, you know, and make 2 agility tokens, and now you're probably going to lose that race. We all know how powerful Bare Fangs is, but now that KO, this is a 2-card 9 for KO. Yeah. It's crazy, honestly. This is like the most powerful card in the set for KO by like a lot. It's better than Levi's numbers because it costs less. So Bare Fangs in draft is like you're gonna want it. Bare Fangs in limited and Bare Fangs in CC. You're gonna play this card if you play KO. It's nuts. Pack Call, probably one of the most powerful common cards in limited. The amount, because of the way the attacks are large and they don't block that well, honestly, when you have an agility token and you send 7 into a pack hunt, like Intimidate is not easy to pull off with beat chest, right? That's card negative. This card is one of the only ones, or the only one that has a free Intimidate trigger on it, aside from like Bare Fangs and Wild Ride. So this card closes games. Like every time I played a red pack hunt, I felt like a god. Weirdly, because I've been playing with this card my entire life since I was born. Pack Hunt is probably S tier in draft and blitz or CC. Sorry, whatever. Okay, it's S tier in limited, right? This card is S tier in limited. Honestly, S tier. We talked about Pound Town. It's the exact same thing, only it makes a might token. Might tokens are very valuable. Agility tokens are very valuable, but again, this is a 3-card 7 with a +1. That is really bad. So unless you're chaining these things together with agility, you're probably better off not using its ability, right? You just want to send 7 and block 3. But if you do have the setup, you have one of these in Arsenal, you have the agility token, and you can go wide with 2 Pound Towns, it's pretty good. But be careful, right? Like you don't want to just trigger this. It's not, the 1 card is not worth 2 might tokens or Intimidate in a might token. It's not. The math doesn't add up. You're losing value. Wild Ride. Another reason KO is really good and limited. Reinhardt, when he pulls these things off, also starts to become a monster, right? Like Wild Ride with an Intimidate into something else, like Pack Hunt from Arsenal, means that they just took 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sometimes because they can't block that well. right? You just took 8 life in limited and you have 20. You have 12 left. That's pretty crazy, actually, if you think about it. So yeah, if you can pull these off, it is obviously super safe to run these in KO. But watch your non-block count, as always. This might be the best beat chest card so far. Probably next to Rawhide Rumble, right? And of course, look at it. It's a common. This one is actually playable in CC. And in Blitz, or in Limited, this card's nuts. +5, and you trigger your hero ability. Plus, you can just pay a 2 cost or a bone or a ball breaker or whatever. Actually, is on rate. Weirdly, it's like, this card's pretty much 1 point below normal value, and because it does impact other cards like ball breaker, it becomes to be on rate, and it gives you enough bonuses, right? Like if your KO, it gives you a might token. If you're Rhinar, it gives you an intimidate, and +5 on a 7 is a lot when your card's all block 2. So I would pick this card. This card's good. And CC, it might even be good for, honestly, I'm testing it in Rhinar right now. It seems really good. Blue especially might be good, especially on Rhinar. And then Smashback Ailhorn, this card's a auto include blue, right? Heavy hitters is all about hitting heavy, right? You want to do a lot of damage. The higher your damage numbers, the better, because cards block so bad in this set. So this just gives you a next turn of like, I'm going to do a lot, So set this up, get a good card in Arsenal, and then go for the moon. Okay, so right now, Brutes are looking really good in CC. Honestly, these Majestics are really strong, and we haven't even touched some of the most powerful cards we've gotten yet. And then in Limited, both heroes are playable. KO is much easier to get to work with these Brute cards. Rhinar, when you get it to work, is a monster. Okay, so let's go down, bam, 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 right? High level, though, Guardians seem to be the hardest heroes to get to work correctly. Just going to be honest, but when you get them to work, they're monsters, right? Victor, we saw Victor do really, really well, but there was one, right? We saw Betsy do really well in the Calling and the Battle Hardened, a couple Betsy's, but they had this helmet and there was like only a handful of them. So Guardian does feel the hardest to get to work, but when they work, they're crazy. And then Warriors, Olympia is really, really powerful. Don't put him down. Gold is super strong and he just vomits gold on the table. And when Kasai is built correctly, like they become very, very scary. Kasai and KO being the 2 aggro decks. Olympia and Rhinar kind of like the mid-rangey ones. And then Guardians, they play very much like a Guardian when they work, Okay, so let's go down to our shared cards. Okay, so Gauntlet of Might, right? Weirdly, in Limited, generally speaking, saving yourself 1 health versus doing 1 health, I would really, really recommend doing 1 more damage. Because the cards block so poorly in this set, it is really important to force your opponent down below that that 5 life total, because now your cards are threatening so much, especially if they start drawing in their pitch stack, which is probably blue block 2s. So 1 power to force them into blocking territory where they're going to have to start giving up their powerful class block 3s and keeping these block 2s that don't do as much is typically more important. And on hits aren't like super prevalent in this set, right? Like Guardians can kind of do stuff like that. But I would still rather do 1 damage to my opponent than save 1 of my own life. Weirdly, there's no you're not saving up for like a big combo at the end most of the time. Okay, talking big game. This is a weird card that I have not experimented with very much yet. It seems really strong because it gives Brutes another reason to force blocks. In Limited, it also forces them to block, which is kind of nice. So it's a pretty good card. I obviously didn't pull this in Limited. And in online testing, I'm just still working around with my blues and stuff like that. So I'm going to get to this card soon, but Ethan seems pretty high on it. So, I'm going to take that as it's probably pretty okay. We'll see. Unfortunately, I haven't played with this card too much, but I do like the idea of forcing your opponent to block you on demand. Clash of Might. Okay. Clash cards. In CC and in Limited, Clash cards are super powerful. They block 3, which is what everybody wants them to do. And Rhinar and KO are pretty good at clashing, right? You're going to lose a lot to Guardian, and that's mostly it, right? So Might, weirdly, is pretty bad to give to Guardians every turn. So you're not going to want to use these blindly. But the most important thing about these cards is they cost 2, do 6, and block 3. So you can have this flexible card that can end on a Blood Rush, that can generate you a Might or Agility token on demand, especially against certain matchups like Ninja, where like if they get an Agility token, who cares? And they just increase Brute's mid-rangeness, because like typically Brutes in the past wanted to block a lot and send 6, block a lot, send 8, block a lot, send 9, right? Now you're just increasing your rotational damage by 1 or 2 or an agility token or whatever. So you're actually increasing your throughput of damage as a mid-range hero just ever so slightly, which is super noticeable. However, if you lose Clash on the wrong turn, it can be bad, right? Like you don't want to give Bravo a freaking crippling crush for 12. That breaks a lot of your block math, right? Like you don't get out of jail free with an armor anymore, right? Now you're like 1 point away still, even further. So you got to be careful against Victor and against Guardians in general with Clash cards. But they're honestly really, really, really powerful against a lot of heroes. And if you deck build a certain way, like KO is the best Brute at clashing right now, like you might actually win a lot. And then in limited, this card's good, because if you're playing anybody else, you might win. You're going to win most of the time. This card right here, I was super off at first because I was like, why would I spend a whole card to block 3? In limited, this card's really good. Because there's an agility version and a might version, depending on the hybrid type. Against Warrior, this is one of the only ways to not die in the end game against an attack reaction. And when you get super low and you're kind of both 2-card blocking, 2-card sending 7, 2-card blocking, 2-card sending 7, you stop. A lot of the time you stop being able to generate your class tokens anymore, because like the cards that you're sending just don't do that anymore. This, you get an arsenal. You block an attack react with it. You get that might token. Now you can push over that 1 point of damage. And that 1 point of damage, a lot of the time, because cards block 2 and 3, actually matters. So suddenly you're both 2-card trading. You play this. Now you are 2-card trading versus their 1 card, which ends up you having 4 cards, which can be a combo, right? So pivot. It's super big in pivot. This turn could also be interesting, to be honest. Against like some classes in CC. I'm not positive yet, but there actually might be some room. I'm not sure. It feels like it's not going to be likely, but I have one friend who's testing this right now who's really, really hot on it. Okay, block cards, pivotal in limited. Pivotal. You need them. They're really good. Even on KO, honestly, like you just block 4, send 12 or whatever. It's really good. So again, clashing is dangerous against certain heroes. And then the payoff here, though, if you think about it, is it's a 5 value card. The problem is that you can't put it in Arsenal, and it's got a red pitch, right? So Clash of Agility or Test of Agility is like really strong, in my opinion. This card's pretty strong too, especially on Guardians. And then, Recursion, if you ever get into that weird grindy state. However, I only went to Fatigue, True Fatigue twice, and they were both when I was playing Olympia, because I was just fatiguing my opponents in Olympia. So pretty rare, but it's possible. So this could be useful in limited. I wouldn't say this card's very good in CC at all. Mighty Windup, card's gas. It says 7 on it, and it costs 3, and it has an ulterior motive, right? You can make a might token if you have too many cards in your hand in limited. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes your opponent just pockets a card and doesn't attack again because they didn't have go again or whatever. And you can just flick this across the table and make a might token. Really good. It does 7. 7's an important number. These cards are kind of interesting in limited. These are all, I would say, limited cards right here. Not much use in CC. Rising Power is good in KO because this becomes a 2-card 7 after a Wild Ride. Not bad, right? And that's really all of its use. Wage Might too. Really interesting thing about limited is that you typically know, because both sides are pretty much creating tokens all the time, you pretty much know if your opponent's going to block this or not, right? If you send 7 and they give you 2 cards and then you send 7 Wage Might, you know they can't stop it. Like you look at their equipment and you look at their hand and you know that there's no chance they can possibly stop this card. So then you Wage Might and you say, I'm going to get the Might token. And where this becomes really important is even if they could stop the card and they only have 2 cards in their hand, they either give you both cards and then their might token explodes on their turn, they can do nothing. Or they let you have a free might token. So you just got a +1 value from this card. So waging is really important about understanding the board state and understanding what your opponent can and can't do, right? So wage might's a little bit less easy to tell because like they could stack up might tokens, but like I said, if they give you their final 2 cards to stop this, the might token is free and now you have tempo, right? So wage is really, 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 really good and limited. If these cards block 3, I would foresee them being really powerful in CC. However, you know, waging is a little bit of a RNG mechanic. So I feel like a lot of people aren't going to put too many of these in their deck because they want to have consistency. And like a rogue D-React can just turn this off and then like you just gave your opponent a free might token. So it's a little dangerous in CC. This card's really powerful and limited, not in CC. But it's a +4 for cost 1, and you have 2 costs as Rhinar, so like, or a KO. So you just play this, you come in for 7, 8, 9, 10, or 6, 7, 8, 9, right? It creates a might token at the end, so it's really coming in for 10 value. Like I said, heavy hitting, you're going tall, and then you're setting up more damage on next turn, and your opponent might be stuck with a fistful of 2 blocks, and they just took a bunch of damage. Really good. Most broken card for Warrior, or most broken equipment for Warrior and Brute. Like you're popping this on KO, dude. I was popping this stuff on turn 1. I didn't care, right? Like it was like, okay, create a might with my armor, create an agility with my armor, send a Bare Fangs, create another might token, pocket a good card for next turn, and then I'm not blocking, right? Like I'm going to the moon. This card does that, and Warrior is super, super important too. Like you need an agility every other turn. This is, yeah, if you get this and KO's helmet, like, you know, you're good. Runner, Majestic. You probably will never see this in limited, but if you do, you're very lucky because it's super strong in Warrior and Brute. It blocks 3. It does everything you want. And CC, over a long game, generating that much agility is pretty difficult. However, I think there are some builds who can really maximize this card. But in standard Rhinar and standard KO, you might not be really getting full value out of this. But it is really good if you build your deck around it. I had one person who played this into me, and it was backbreaking. It was a Warrior. They had the agility token. They sent this out for 2 for 6. Then they attacked me with their weapons, and they made another agility token. And I was like, wow, that was a really, really big turn. And I still beat you. Okay. Clash of Agility. Yeah. Same thing. We talked about this. 2 cost 6, block 3. This card's cracked. Play it. It's really good. And blue and red, honestly, for Rhinar could be really powerful. KO can even get away with these, but I'm not sure. Take it on the chin. Again, we talked about it. This one makes an agility token, which is even more powerful most of the time, unless it's in the end game where the other card becomes stronger. We talked about these. These are just the clones in the other version that create agility tokens. Agility tokens in limited are super, 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 super important. In CC, these cards are probably, agility is still really important. Savage Feast with Gogen for free. Yes, please, right? This card is actually really annoying in limited because you can't go to 1, right? Your opponent might have this card. It is something you have to consider. Pay attention if they pitch this down in the second cycle, right? But, you know, it is possible now for Rhinar to do like, what, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 uninteractable damage on defense. You know, that's actually quite a bit. However, these cards are bad. You know, Reckless Swing is like card negative, so is he doing 9 for free? Not really. This card's also a red block 3, which is super at rate, and it does nothing else. But like you could do 9 free uninteractable damage as Rhinar now. But limited, it's really good. The King of Block cards, Test of Agility. This is really strong. I am playing this in CC right now. I'm enjoying this card a lot. It does everything brutes want to do, which is block, create value from blocking, and then attack. It literally does everything a brute wants. The only problem, again, is you can't put this in your arsenal, which is something you have to deal with. Test of Agility can bite you in the butt sometimes. Okay, now to the card that I think is the most broken common in this set. The strongest common in the set by a million miles. This is going to see CC play. I can tell you right now, this is one of the most powerful brute cards I have played with in a long time. You know, like it's a common. It makes no sense, I know. This right here does so many things for brutes. Okay, for one, it's a 6. Yes, it's a block 2. That is the if this thing blocked 3, I would call it a 10 out of 10, like a quad 10. I'd get this card graded if it blocked 3, right? So what this really does for each brute, it does something different, right? Which is what's crazy about it. Every brute gets something unique from this card. Levia, graveyard fill, make an agility token. Insane, right? Turn 0, make an agility token, throw shit in the graveyard. You are good now. You've filled your graveyard with 6s, which is nuts. For Rhinar, this is an intimidate on a stick, right? And it creates an agility token. You can put attacks now in your deck that do what our 0 cost intimidate cards did before. So this right here is a straight up replacement for like clearing Bellow. Yes, it blocks 2, but it doesn't matter with the flexibility, to be honest. And it makes a might or agility token. You also have the might version, but you can just flick and intimidate across the table at instant speed, which with things like no mercy or whatever and blocking can become really tricky for your opponent to deal with, right? And then make benefit for next turn. So turn 0, great opening play. Another thing this does is for KO, it makes a might and an agility token. A might and an agility token if you do it on your turn. You know what else this card does? It lets you 4-card Savage Beatdown, making a agility token and an intimidate or might token, depending on what hero you're playing. You can throw one of these in the trash can on your turn, make an agility token, send Savage Beatdown for 12. Reinhardt with 2 intimidates, KO with a might token, and you just did 12, which is exactly on rate with cards, which seems like, why is that important? 12 for 4 cards that double intims on Reinhardt is a lot. And you set up for next turn. Like you don't have to do any setup. Savage Beatdown fires every other day, every other hand. I'm not joking you. You can never miss on Savage Beatdown anymore. Savage Beatdown might be the best brute card in the game, in my opinion, at this point in time, because like it fires no matter what. Be careful. You can't do this from Arsenal. That is something that I wish they would have made more clear. I didn't realize you couldn't fire this from Arsenal. You can't, from what I understand. Read the rules. Go ask a judge. But I'm pretty sure once you put this in pocket, you can only play it. I don't know why. Makes no sense to me, but that is what I'm being told. I will confirm that and put it in my Discord posting about it. Best card in the game. Maybe. Rising Speed, these are okay. These work really well on Warrior, honestly, because like Kasai draws cards off gold and stuff like that. However, like in KO, you do get you pulping into, or you wild ride into this card. It is two cost 5 go again. I don't love this card, but I do like it in Warrior a lot. Wage, we talked about it. This card's really powerful. What makes this one even easier to understand is if your opponent already has an agility token, you can wage for free. Because who cares if they get a second one? It doesn't do anything. So you can just wage every time and say, give me 7 block, or I get an agility token. They won't most of the time. So you get a free agility token. Lead with Speed. This is up there right next to Agile Windup as one of the most powerful cards in the game in Limited. And this card will probably see CC play also, right? These 2 cards are going to see CC play. Warrior's got a lot of gas to cook with, and Brutes too. +3, we know I already talked about going tall. And agility versus might, a lot of the time agility is stronger. So yes, it's just a buff card that gives you an agility token. It is your generator. It is your engine for warriors. It is your engine for brutes to keep going bigger and badder and harder and stronger. You know what I mean? Cards really, really go to get all 3 of them. Okay, and then these are Guardian and Warrior cards. 6. Cool. Okay. This helmet, really annoying to play against when you Blood Rush. Really annoying to play against. Guardians, Victor's going to try and fatigue you with this thing. It's super annoying. Luckily, it only works once. But yeah, pretty much against Warriors and Ninjas, this card's actually pretty good. Art of War, especially against Levia, this card's pretty good. It just gives you a free card. It's probably going to see play in CC. Honestly, it's pretty good. All of this right here is your limited trash blocks. F tier. You don't want these. You want the 2 block cards. You want anything that gives you 2 value on your equipment. You either want a token or you want like vigor, right? Like, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But here, anything that says 2 right here. These are the good guys. So these cards right here are the ones that you want to rotate in and out depending on what your opponent. If you're playing against a brute, you do not want a vigor armor on the table because it cannot be played. I will never generate a vigor token unless you give me one. And I might not take it because I don't want you to get free value. And maybe I have that generic that's going to destroy you at the end game and I'm never going to let you use it. So be very careful. You have to read your armor. A lot of the armor only triggers if something explicitly has happened, like a token has been destroyed this turn, or you control 2 tokens on your side of the table, right? Like that kind of stuff. Other than that, these are all kind of anything that doesn't block 2 is the bottom tier. You know, like this is okay, I guess, but like most of the time you're trying to get these thick 2 blocks on your side that are playable against your opponent. The more 2 blocks you have, the more likely you are to win. I'm going to be very honest. Like the 2 blocking armor is super, super, super important. Okay, generics. Most of these majestic generics are kind of hard to play. This one being like one of the best ones because it is a 0 for 6 if you have an arsenal. So it's actually a 2 card 6, which is exactly on rate. But a lot of the time, this card, I did have a copy. It caught my opponents off guard because, you know, it's a small card play. Also a 0 for 4, which is a lot of the time what I did use it as. There aren't very many. I don't think there is any other 0 for 4 in this set. I don't think so. So going down to 1 card, my opponent would like get really low, expect me to have to arsenal because they were holding on for their retaliation turn. I just flick this across the table from my arsenal and they'd give me 2 cards because their cards don't block very well. And I thrashed their whole plan, which is pretty nice. But most of these are kind of weird majestics. Like this is a 5 card, so good luck getting your chain link past like 3 in this set. Getting to 3 chain links is actually really hard. You know, there is a lot of arsenal destruction, but still like you're gambling quite a bit to put this in your arsenal. This blue block 3 that you're probably going to want to pitch or play. So the majestics are kind of strange. Like this gets overpower, you know, like, okay, right. They're weird. This right here though, cream of the crop. This card wins games by itself most of the time. 5 baseline. It gets overpower plus 3 and it creates all of the tokens. If you have less health, less equipment, and less tokens on your side of the table. All right, so you have to fulfill all 3 clauses. But once you do, this is a tempo swing, right? This is a 2 card 8 that makes 3 tokens. Like you're going to win that back and forth trade at the end of the game. So this card is cracked, hence why it is so important to not play one of these cards if you cannot get them off your side of the table. If you play this into a brute, you are saying, I will eat every down but not out you have for the rest of the game, and I will like it. Okay? Okay. And then, you know, like these are 6s for Reinhardt. They're pretty good. These are 6s for KO. Pretty good. Reinforce a line. Won a game I really shouldn't have won because I had to reinforce a line in my arsenal. And I shut off an entire turn they committed every card in their hand to. Because this is the only instance or the only cards that can block from Arsenal in this set. This is the only +4 from Arsenal. So this card is really, 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 really good. Adrenaline Rush actually works more than you'd think it would, but not for Brute that well. Performance bonus. None of these are really Brute cards. Rally the Rear Guard, cracked. Play this one. Play the yellows in KO2 because block 5s are pretty often. You can sack a non-blocker. You can sack a 2-block to make this a +3, which is actually kind of nice. So, and it fulfills the 6 ratios you need. Trade-in, if you're going to play Reinhardt, you want trade-ins, put them all over your deck. Actually, really nuts in Reinhardt. Like, really nuts. This is what makes Reinhardt's engine kind of work, weirdly. It's a free Intimidate that does 3 damage and has Go again. Intimidate in this set is super important. I cannot express how important trade-ins are for Reinhardt. Don't put them in KO. Lunging Press. The dumbest, the most ridiculous. The art of this card is so stupid. Okay, I put this in my arsenal because I'm a freaking idiot. And I thought it would buff my weapons because look at it. It looks like it's buffing a weapon. It doesn't. It only works on attack action cards. So I stuck this in my arsenal as Kasai, and I had to play my game without an arsenal. It was cool. It's cheeky for Reinhardt, like 1+. Cheeky for KO, 1+, like in the end game state. Well, you know, whatever. You know, this card's actually pretty good all across the board. However, you don't want gold tokens if you can't use them, but gold is super powerful in this set. But you don't want to play this card if you have like down but not out. If you just stacked gold on your side of the table, you're committed to never playing your overpower card. You want this block card. That's kind of it. Block is good. Brutes are really strong right now. At a high level, I kind of touched on all the cards, maybe too many times. But in CC, we're looking really good, right? Like this card is cracked, this card's cracked, this card's cracked. We got 3 really good Majestics. No Fear is probably on the verge. I'm not sure just yet, but No Fear also is really good for KO. Beat Chest, I'm having a hard time really getting to function in a CC deck, right? Like I think Standard Claws is still going to be the future for Brutes for until this card allows with KO. It's just the value claws generate. Beat chest cards right now, there's just not enough of them, and they all cost 3, except for like Rawhide Rumble and the non-attack action. And I have my problems with that. I don't want to run that many 3-cost cards. I especially don't want to run a mechanic that requires you to pretty much have 2 of them in your hand to work, and when they all cost 3, I don't want to commit 5 cards to do 6 to 12. I don't want to commit 5 cards to do 12 damage with 2 tokens. Like, I'm sorry. I don't want to do that at all. I'd rather commit 4 cards and do Savage Beatdown with an agility token. Like, I don't get it. That's easier to pull off. Anyways, so Bonebreaker Bellow being the most playable, probably right next to, of course, the 2-cost one. Who would have thought it, right? So Rawhide Rumble, double Intim. It just gives you more Intim damage. Same thing here. Intimidate, cost 1. Fits a curve. Smashback Elhorn, pretty good, although I don't love it that much. I don't think I'm playing it right now in any of my versions. However, an agility version of Reinhardt, I've seen it come out, and it might be really powerful. And this is a clashless version. This is a clashless way to generate agility, which is pretty powerful into Guardians. Okay. Yeah. So CC, we did get more powerful, which is amazing. Clashing is a really powerful mechanic. Agile Windup is a broken card, right? Lead with Speed maybe opens up an avenue for a Romping Club and or Agility Reinhardt. And then these block cards are more powerful than you think. They are. They are. All right, have a great day. I hope it helped you at all. Next coming out is my Broken KO deck that I've been working on. I can't wait to show you.